Just going to wait another minute just for a couple more committee members. I know we're dialing in. Okay, so we have a quorum. Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Craig Slutskin. I would like to welcome you to Manhattan Community Board 5's Parks and Public Spaces Committee meeting. I am your chairperson. Tonight, we have 4 different agenda items, which we'll go through. Just to remind everyone of how we conduct our meetings, we will go through each agenda item, and for each agenda item, we will have the applicant present to us what the item is about. Then we will allow for time for committee members to ask questions of the applicant. From there, I will allow the public to either ask questions or make comments. And then at that point, we'll go into the business set, what's called a business session. And in the business session, it's only appropriate for members of the community board committee to deliberate unless otherwise decided by the chair. From there, we will on several items tonight, we will take votes. That is not the official position of Community Board 5. In about 2 weeks, it's the second Thursday of the month. Check cb5.org for specific times and details. The full board will deliberate and will vote, and at that point, that will be the official position of Community Board 5. So that's where we are. We'll start off tonight with Union Square partnership update on the spring and summer programming and their lawn repair. I will note that this is a voting item. We do vote on this. And then so at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Ed Janoff from Union Square. Ed.
Hi, Craig, and hello, CB5 Parks and Public Spaces Committee. I am Ed Janoff. I'm now the acting executive director of Union Square Partnership. For those who don't know, our former executive director, Jennifer Falk, she stepped down at the end of last year after 16 years. And so I am acting right now in an interim capacity. Also joining me tonight, you can wave, is Josh Thompson, our Deputy Director of Operations. Josh was formerly the Assistant District Manager for Community Board 2. So many of you may know him from that capacity. And so we're both here and we'll be taking diligent notes on this conversation. I have 12 slides to present tonight that are going to cover almost all of Union Square Partnership's service areas. So thank you for putting me first, and I ask everyone to bear with me as I move through these. So I'm going to share screen right now. And has everybody seen my slide and only my slide? I hope so.
We're good.
Great. So first off, I just want to recap the work that Union Square Partnership is doing this time of year. We work in partnership with the Parks Department to maintain Union Square Park in addition to all of our other bid services. And so right now we would be going around and painting our street furniture, park elements, putting our spring plantings in the ground, getting out, cleaning our tables and chairs that will go out in all of our public seating areas, getting our umbrellas ready and getting the playground ready, etc. And then in another week, we'll be increasing our staffing levels. We need more people to handle the trash and graffiti, etc. that normally comes when the weather gets warm. Also, we will be planting flowers and shrubs besides in the park, also in the planters, about 120 planters around the streets around the park. And then we also take care of trees in the park and then also in the meeting on Union Square East. And we'll be doing all the regular work to aerate, fluff, and generally make the garden beds look great after the winter. Also, one of our main services as a bid is public safety coordination. We work with partners in NYPD and the Parks Department PEP office, not so much to respond to individual incidents, but rather to address kind of problems in the aggregate and hotspot concerns. So when we hear, for example, that there might be issues in a string of businesses or the green market or et cetera, we'll invite top officials to come and do a walkthrough with us. And then our director of operations, Tom DeRusso, who is formerly an officer of the 13th precinct, also works closely with that precinct to report and respond to issues as they crop up. We also do our best to inform our constituents about all the various places that there are to communicate really the official channels for quality of life concerns, and that's at unionsquarenyc.org/reportqol. And there's a whole list of ways that people can make sure that their voices are being heard. And then they also communicate to us in our annual community opinion survey about issues that they see more globally. And I just wanted to point out that this year in particular, so we heard last year that quality of life and feeling of street safety was one of the highest concerns from our community in our community opinion survey. And so some of the things that we're going to be doing this year to address that is, first of all, we just sent out information today about a community safety forum that we're planning to host on Tuesday, April 17th in the morning. Which is at Project Farmhouse on 13th Street. This is an invite-only event. This is not a broad public event. We don't want to have hundreds and hundreds of people show up. So we invited specifically our board and business owners and other sort of residential large building representatives from our neighborhood. But if anybody on this call is interested in joining us at this meeting, you can email our email address info@unionsquarenyc.org, or if you have mine or Josh's emails, just let us know and we'll send you an invite. We are also bringing back Union Square Partnership's public safety team. We used to have, Union Square Partnership logoed public safety officers that walked around the park and the district. We sunsetted that program years ago because it was very expensive and we felt it wasn't needed. But I think that what we're hearing from our constituents is that they really feel like some kind of a uniformed presence is needed now. Somebody who can answer questions or can provide more visibility. Things like that. I know a lot of the bids in Midtown already have this, but it is something that Union Square Partnership has decided to bring back despite the cost. We've also, I'll touch on this later, put in capital funding requests for City Capital for additional street lighting upgrades along 14th Street. And later this year, we will be working on launching an age-friendly Union Square campaign in response to seniors in the neighborhood who said they need more information about, places to go and certain issues of concern to them. That'll be later in the year. I'm going to just on a tangent for a second. The Union Square Vision Plan is probably our single biggest initiative as an organization. This was launched 2 years ago and presented, to the community board and various public forums. But it's a broad 30 to 40 year plan for improving and expanding the public space around Union Square and in the district and adding more greenery and making it more pedestrian friendly. We've been working in the background a lot last year on developing the vision, sort of the pre-conceptual ideas into more actionable concepts and in some cases designs. Last year, we brought a streetscape and lighting master plan to the community board and got PDC approval for that. And we're also working on a tree plan that we hope to launch in the fall that would talk about the succession of Union Square's trees and planting more trees throughout the district. But I bring this up because, as I said, one of the things that we're looking at in the immediate term is lighting, and that was featured in the Streetscape and Lighting Master Plan. The plan proposed to upgrade all of 14th Street's streetlights to standard DOT LED lighting, and today they are it's a kind of a fake historic fixture, but it has a teardrop light that has a sort of a lower quality of light. That doesn't cast as wide and it's not as bright and you get these hot spots. And so the plan that we presented last year called for upgrading all of that lighting to new DOT LED standards. This was, more of a transportation committee item, but I'm just highlighting that this is something that we're working on, and we've requested $600,000 combined from Borough President Levine's office and Carlina Rivera's office. And so if you like this, I encourage anybody to, reach out to them to support this ask. The plan for the park was to have historic fixtures, so Bishop's Crook and bee poles around the park. But the Public Design Commission said before they could approve that, that would need a further lighting study. So we were working on raising the money internally for that. That's not happening at this time. I'm just talking about upgrades of the lighting on 14th Street. And what we're also focusing on besides the vision plan is just really critical capital needs that need to be addressed ASAP, maybe before we maybe do or don't get sort of city funding for a larger project for the whole district. We're looking at things like bathroom fixtures that are starting to fall apart, the median island on Union Square East. We have huge problems with drainage and plumbing in the park. The plumbing keeps breaking. We get, these like geysers, and then the drainage breaks, and we get sinkholes, and the irrigation system isn't working. So it's really been a process of playing whack-a-mole, trying to keep the waterworks operating in Union Square Park. And then also on the left, you see the fencing that was put in as part of the playground renovation in 2010 is starting to fail, and unfortunately, it's not a park standard. So there's really no way to get replacements. It was a custom item that when it fails, we don't really have any recourse to maintain it. So on the issue of plumbing and drainage, the Parks Department has requested from the City Council about $8.4 million to replace all the plumbing and drainage in the park, and then repave these areas in green, which would get kind of dug up probably in phases as the plumbing and drainage is implemented. And so we have met specifically with the council to endorse this request. And we also testified at the Parks Committee hearing for the budget last week. And so again, if you are in favor of this, we encourage you all to write to your council person or support this proposal if it comes across your desk. These are the improvement projects that Union Square Partnership is undertaking with what funding we have available this year. We always do plantings in the planters around the perimeter of the park, but in the last couple of years during COVID, we tried an experiment of using exclusively perennials that would kind of save us money and would try to have 3-season interest, but without having to kind of replant each season. And we've just come to the conclusion that it really hasn't worked. There's too many times that the district planters just look green and don't give us the pop of color that we really hear that the neighborhood wants in order to communicate kind of a fresh and noticeable green aesthetic around the perimeter of the square. So we are moving back to having 3 seasons of planters. It's, bulbs in the spring, and then, a summer selection of heat tolerant plants in the summer, and then we'll move to, more vegetative plants in the fall. We are also replacing the park signboards that's on the bottom left. These signboards are probably around 15 years old. And so we're replacing them with, it's essentially the same signboard. It's just a kind of right now it's attached to like a wood stake, and we're just adding it to a metal footing. So it's basically the same thing, but we'll be replacing them so that they look new, because they're really starting to fall apart and literally fall down. The playground fencing that I talked about being not in good shape, we have submitted this project to participatory budgeting through Carlina Rivera's office. The proposal is to replace the steel mesh fencing with a standard Parks Department black steel fencing that they would have the ability to maintain sort of in perpetuity, so that we wouldn't end up in the situation again where this custom item is falling apart and we don't have the pieces to replace it. So that is something you could vote for at vote.pbnyc.org. And we're very hopeful that that project gets funded so we can address this issue, because as this fence starts to fail, like the attachments leave these like metal knobs that, the playground failed its inspection because someone the inspector flagged that that's an eye gouging hazard. So we've like the district like covered them with foam and duct tape, like so that, but it's really like not looking good. So this is what we think would be, I think, a very viable and easy to maintain solution going forward to replace that fencing, keep kids from running, you know, on the tree roots and in the planter beds, but also be something that would be easily maintainable. I'll pause at the end of the slide. Also, we are adding large planters to the upper steps of the South Plaza of Union Square in front of George Washington. This is, you know, an effort to kind of make that space feel more like part of the park by adding flowers that kind of extend around that perimeter. And so that's something that we're planning to do next month. And then we're also looking at experimenting with adding tables and chairs to that space. We have 4 other seating areas with tables and chairs that we maintain in and around the park today. Well, that will be going out next month, and that's the Broadway plazas at Broadway and 17th. And there's 2 in the interior of the park, the north and west seating areas, and then the mother and child statue on Union Square West. And then there's also the lawn area north of the lawn around the Abe Lincoln statue. We have tables and chairs. And then last year we added tables and chairs to the triangle at 4th Avenue and 14th Street. So we'd like to experiment with this. It's a little more complicated because this area is just an area of the park that gets a little bit more intense use. And so we need to see, you know, how these tables and chairs are used. Do they walk away? And then also it's an area where people may kind of spontaneously congregate for demonstrations. So our team is going to need to be there with the chairs at all times to be able to take them away if a crowd starts to gather, or if we get information from PD that, you know, some kind of activity, we need to make sure that we can clear that space for free expression purposes. So I don't really know exactly when we would want to do that. It's not going to roll out with all the rest of our furniture in April. I think we'll make sure that we have everything kind of set for the season, and we'd be looking more at like maybe late May or June that we experiment with seating in that area. And then finally, another thing to come out of the Streetscape and Furniture Master Plan is the idea of a tree fence, a custom tree fence for all the trees on 14th Street and around Union Square Park. The compaction of the soil in those beds is a huge problem. And so one of the things that, you know, the Parks Department and we really support is the idea of protecting them with a guard. And we designed a guard that is, it's just a riff on a Parks Department standard that includes an ironwork design on the inside that kind of responds to some of the Art Deco architecture in Union Square. And so we're installing a prototype pending Design Commission approval at this tree pit that you see here, which is in front of Zero Irving at Irving Place and 14th Street. The timing of this would be in the summer. And again, this would just be one. But the goal is for us to be able to evaluate it and get feedback on it. And if everybody likes it, we could install it at all 150 tree pits throughout the district. So before I go into the lawn, I wanted to pause here and see if anybody had any questions.
Let Samir go in a second, but I do actually have a question as well. I have a question. So I'm in the playing around a decent amount when it gets warmer out because I have a young kid. And thank you for doing or at least trying to focus on the fencing. As a parent of a kid who's gotten scratched several times by the fencing, I can tell you it is very important. Are you planning on doing anything above the bathroom, the restroom in the playground? I'm talking about that. Kids climb up there. There's a way for the kids to sort of graduate up from one structure to another to get on top of the bathroom. And I'm fairly certain that bathroom structure is not something that you want kids to be on top of and jumping off of and climbing up and down. Are you planning, or are you able to do anything about that? Because I think that that's probably a terrible accident that's waiting to happen, because they climb up either on that circular thing and then they jump. They somehow get on top of there. I don't pay attention, but they're on top of there, and I don't think that's what you want. That's my guess.
Yeah, we noticed that as well. There was basically like a wire mesh lattice that was designed for plants to grow up. That was you know, on the playground wall side, and we noticed that problem too. And not only were people climbing on it, but also the mesh was falling apart and becoming like a hazard. And so last year, the Parks Department removed that mesh.
Okay.
Towards later in the year. So I don't think we're having that same problem, but that is exactly the kind of thing that I would want to have a public safety team around, because they could record those issues, take pictures, and call the Parks Department, call the police department as it's persistent. We also have heard complaints in general that there's basically like older school kids, high school kids tend to use the playground in ways that are kind of more vigorous or aggressive, that make kind of smaller kids uncomfortable after school. And so that's another situation that we're kind of coordinating with schools and enforcement to monitor.
Yeah, and if I see kids climbing on top of there, I'm happy to let you know, Ed. I will be your police. Samir.
Yeah, just real quick, you touched on like quality of life issues. One of the things I noticed, I live across the street, is on the east side, both in the bike lane, there's a lot of like potholes due to like trash juice, and there's a lot of cops parking on the sidewalks or even in the bike lanes. Are there plans to address that?
That is an ongoing conversation between Parks DOT, the community board, and the council's office, and Union Square Partnership. I'm not prepared to present anything on that time, but if you want to follow up with me afterwards, I'd be happy to talk about it. It's a really complicated issue.
Sounds great. Thank you.
So just moving along for now, lawn maintenance is a really big issue for us at Union Square Partnership. I used to work at Bryant Park. I used to work at Madison Square Park Conservancy. So, it pains me to have a lawn that's not maintained at Union Square Park. We don't really have the resources that those organizations do, although it's my job to try to make sure that we do get those kinds of resources. But what we're dealing with right now is basically the Union Square Partnership lawn. We seed it in April. Those are like on the bottom right, you can see kind of what the lawn looks like in April, and we try to fence off the whole lawn, and we don't have dedicated on-site personnel either from the partnership or from the Parks Department who's able to really police that lawn. And it really gets to a point where just people will not be stopped from going on it or through it. So what you see there in April, looks more like what you see up here when you get to June. And we've determined that a big part of the reason for this is just because people like to walk through the lawn, and they like to walk to the lawn from the south. So on the right, the lawn has like 4 entrances, including one at the top. And the issue is that people like to walk across the lawn, zigzagged, and they like to get to the middle. Union Square's lawn is a little bit interesting because it's got this monument, this major monument at the middle of the lawn. The monument long predates the existence of the lawn, so the lawn was added after, and so it's like a natural gathering space that people want to walk to. And so what we're seeing is these desire lines that come from the 4 entrances at the corners. All the grass gets kind of dirty and destroyed, and not only is all the grass dead, but then it creates compaction and erosion. So then kind of the whole lawn starts to wash out towards the entrances. And in general, we can't close the lawn during this season. People kind of refuse to acknowledge any of the closures because they want to walk through. So we want to try and experiment this year where we'll take these desire lines, and I've got a diagram here shown in yellow, and lay gravel on top of it so that people who want to walk to the middle or walk across the lawn would have a pathway to do so. And then we would hydro seed the areas that are not pathway, that's kind of on the west, east, and south. And then we could fence off just that area so that people would have a way to walk to the middle and walk through the lawn, but without having to, without us having to fence the entire area where people will break it. And we actually have seeding around the flagpole and in the northern gravel areas of the lawn. So I think we could get a little bit more life out of our protection, and hopefully get the lawn to the point of maybe May, where it would be reasonable for us to like open it to active public use and have a better shot at it lasting for the rest of the year. And then we also think if we provide sort of a conducive way for people to walk through the space without trampling the lawn, especially when it's wet, since we really don't have a way day to day to close it and enforce any kind of closure. It's really when people walk on the wet lawn that really smushes it and kills it. So the proposal we have here is to experiment with adding gravel on these pedestrian desire lines that you see drawn here. This is a sketch that shows we would also gravel around the flagpole. There's already some existing there, but I think we would take out some of the shrubs that are around the flagpole that have kind of grown big enough that they sort of obscure activity there and sort of attracting negative activity there, so that we could add some gravel and put the seating around the flagpole, and then just see how that goes. And I think in that way, we're hopeful that we could, first of all, have a better kind of through movement experience, and then also get better health and longevity out of the grass that we do end up planting. So we met with Parks on site, Therese Flores, about this a couple weeks ago, and we diagrammed how we could, these pathways you see are a little bit meandering. That's to avoid the critical root zone of these trees. And then thank you for your suggestion. I remember it was Craig or Marissa, that we'll put a nicer sign in behind the fencing that explains to people, why we have the lawn closed and how we're trying to keep it healthy. So before I move forward, any questions on the lawn plan?
I think we're good.
All right, can discuss further at the end if you like. Then I want to highlight our programming for the year. Every year we do It's My Park Day. We used to do this in June, but I've moved it up to April because I feel that's a little more spring-like. And that is a volunteer event with kids. We do planting and cleanup, and we have some local neighborhood partners. That's on a Saturday. It's only like a 2 or 3 hour event that goes from, I think, I want to say 11 to 2. And it's at the northern end of the lawn around the Lincoln statue. Summer in the Square is our big program series we've been doing for about 10 years or so, and that involves consecutive Thursdays from mid-June to early August, where we have programming in and around all parts of the park from morning to evening. We did not do it in 2020 or 2021. Last year we brought back a scaled back version, but this year we're planning to bring it back more. I don't have all the details because a lot of this is still very much being discussed, and so I don't have everybody under contract yet. But loosely, the program would be we would have fitness in the early morning. So like what you see here, we have classes on the South Plaza around 8, 9 a.m. And then also on the South Plaza or in the park interior around 10 or 11, we'll do kids programming like story time or maybe like a kids concert. Around lunchtime, we do jazz. We usually partner with the new school to get music students and get a jazz trio in one of the seating areas in the park. Sometimes we do it in the west side. Last year, we moved it to the Triangle at 4th Avenue, and that was, I think, really successful. We were also looking at bringing back movies in the park, and that would be, those used to be on 17th Street, but we are now looking at doing it on the northern half of the lawn. With tables and chairs in the gravel area on the northern half of the lawn with an inflatable screen that would sit on the pathway on the 16th Street transverse. And then finally, we are looking at bringing in an athletic event on 17th Street for the duration of the Thursday that would involve athletic courts. That would be a particularly popular athletic event that seems to be gripping the city. That I can't, not going to specifically say, but let's just say it's you hit a ball back and forth, and people seem to love it. So we're looking at the potential for bringing that back. All of this is pending sort of a full program and permits from the Parks Department. We also do Harvest in the Square. We haven't done that since COVID. That's a large tented fundraiser that occurs on 17th Street on the North Plaza of the park. I at this point looking to move this event to an indoor location. So we are not planning to do that on the park this year. At this point, if I did want to do it in the park, I will come back to you. And then finally, every year on a Sunday after the holiday market opens, we do a community holiday event that has just caroling and giveaways like hot cider and stuff. So that is Union Square Partnership's programming plans for the year. And can I answer any questions about that?
Any questions from the board, from my committee members?
And I'll stay on if there's any questions later.
Okay.
And then finally, we are planning to do the third annual installment of our mural that happens on 14th Street, just south of the South Plaza of Union Square Park. This year, the winning artist who is selected is by the name of Vanessa Alvarez. Her application with us is currently under review by the DOT art program. She was a finalist for our mural last year, but was not picked. But she came out and she volunteered to paint with us and kind of really learned more about the site and came back with a proposal this year that we think is really great. That is called Union with the Universe and talks about, themes of, climate action and nature and tries to work off of the natural elements of Union Square Park. So tentatively, the expected installation for that mural is the week of May 22nd. And if there's no rain, we would expect that the big volunteer day would be Wednesday, May 24th, to which everybody is invited. So you would stay tuned to our channels for more information. So that is the end of my presentation. So thank you, and I will stay on for any questions.
Thank you. Are there any further questions from the committee? David.
Yeah, I realize this is a hard question to answer, but the last few times I've been to the park, there was kind of overrun by bicyclists and messengers and delivery people going all over wherever they want. And I know keeping control of this is hard. I was just wondering what sort of efforts you've made to kind of keep it under control.
Reminds me, I don't know if Colleen, see, we're not in transportation committee, but I'm meeting with the borough commissioner Ed Pinkar just to convey what I'm hearing from the community. We continue to get some minor complaints about elements of the busway, but by far the number one complaint that we're hearing, and you guys hear this probably throughout CD5, is e-bikes, and particularly, they will use the west side of the park as like a rest area, which is not necessarily, there's no problem with that, but it's that they will often like ride off through the park, through the North Plaza and through Union Square West. It's obviously less of a problem when there's activity in the park. So, you can't really get through when there's the green market there, but when there's not the green market there, it becomes an attractive nuisance. So I'll be communicating that to the Department of Transportation. I'm obviously not empowered to enforce that, but that is the kind of thing that I think if, our operations team who's out there every day now, and if we add 4 more sort of fixed post officers during the day, I think we'll record and make more observations. And really, I think there's kind of a broad city conversation happening about what to do about that. But we'll make sure that gets communicated to the DOT and to NYPD if they do enforce that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And I just wanted to say that you've been doing a great job pulling this whole thing together. It looks like a great program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back for a minute to the tables and chairs on the plaza, the new tables and chairs. So you were saying that if you were seeing large groups of people congregating, like if there was a protest, then you would deploy people to actually remove the tables and chairs?
Yeah, I mean, right now what we're thinking of is having basically one of our clean team members be stationed at that spot.
Mhm.
be able to let us know that, if a protest was developing, that they would be able to take them away so that we can make more space available, as crowds start to gather. I think that, if somebody goes through the proper channels through NYPD to get a permit for a protest or a demonstration, that's easy for us to not set anything up.
Sure.
But it is one of probably like, I think it's one of the like 4 or 5 spaces in New York City that are the most popular for protests and demonstrations, along with Foley Square downtown and Barclay Center. And so I think we understand that, I want to be clear that like we know that we've got a duty to keep that space available for free expression, and so we're not trying to block that kind of activity using furniture. And so it's only going to work if we're going to be able to respond quickly and remove it as directed.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else from the committee? So we'll go to the the participants, members of the public. Please raise your hand. I see a couple of hands already up. So we'll start with Zul Zukowitz. I'm allowing you to speak. So you should be able to unmute.
Thank you, Craig, and thank you, folks. Thank you, Ed, for your presentation. Smoking has been an ongoing problem in Union Square. I ask you to speak about that for a minute. It doesn't really matter what people smoke now. It's all legal, but it's not legal in the park. So how are we going to deal with that? And then also, is there any possibility in your mind to really upgrade the comfort station to the level of a staffed Bryant Park type station? And then thirdly, I've been working with the Street Homelessness Advocacy Project initiated by Norman Siegel, Bob Hayes, and others. And so this is an all volunteer neighbor to unhoused neighbor project. And it's still in a pilot since August, but we're building on that. And one of the things that we're looking to do is kiosks, where street homeless people can come and meet with volunteers as well as people from DHS, so that we can hopefully move them into stabilization beds, welcome hotels. They're in a single room with their own bathroom, some privacy, wraparound services, and then helping them to move on in the future. So those 3 questions, and if you would just start on the smoking issue, Ed, thank you. And thank you, Craig.
Thank you, Zul, for those questions. I think we too are concerned about the smoking issue, and that's something that we convey a lot to parks and PD and City Hall. It's just we're stuck in the spot where there's a rule on the books that doesn't really get enforced. We've been communicating this very strongly to City Hall through the state through the Office of Cannabis Management, because we're concerned that there seems to be a lot of interest in for cannabis operators to open stores around Union Square Park, which I think officially I can say I'm agnostic about it. This is an important growth industry for the city and an entrepreneurial program. We don't love that the siting requirements do not preclude an application that was on Union Square West, which is literally like across the street, like 400 feet from the playground, in an area where smoking is already happening illegally, smoking of tobacco or anything in the park. And so I'm trying to use that as an opportunity to say, like, hey, the city and the state are rolling out this program, rather than be embarrassed by some post story later on about how you cited this in a place that's causing a problem that the neighbors don't like. Could you maybe get ahead of this and see if there's a way that you could try to enforce the regulations about smoking anything in parks? Because I just hear from constituents that you go into Union Square Park to go to a park and get fresh air, and you just walk through the pathways and you just get pummeled with smoke on every pathway. So it's certainly an issue we're aware of. Again, it's something that we do not have any authority to enforce. We can only kind of convey, document concerns, and pass them to various authorities. But I will tell you that lately, the audience that I've been trying to push this to is the Office of Cannabis Management, because I know that they want their rollout to be successful, and the issue of smoking in the parks does not seem to be going away. But I'll take this and also relay it in our next conversations that we have with City Hall at the commercial corridor recovery task force, because at least I can get an audience with a deputy mayor there who would be listening. As far as the bathrooms, yes, in the vision plan, we do have, of our many projects that are in our list to try to get to. One of them is, you know, a full renovation of that bathroom. It's only about maybe 14 years old, but we found that it's, you know, it really should have been probably bigger, but also that the fixtures inside of it are not holding up. And so one of our highest priorities that I showed in that capital needs plan is to try to upgrade all the fixtures, probably not this year, but maybe next year. And we are interested in having a full-time attendant. The problem is, to be frank, that I have not been able to do any fundraising for 3 years. And so, you know, we're technically a bid and a local development corporation, and the local development corporation has been operating at a deficit for 3 years. So, you know, money that I might have been able to dedicate to that will have to wait until I see when I do my Harvest in the Square fundraiser again for the first time in 4 years this fall. If we're able to meet our goals, that is something we would like to explore potentially in 2024. And as I said, the capital needs that I showed were plumbing and drainage, the playground fence, the bathroom, and the median on Union Square East, which is crumbling and falling apart. So if we do get the funding for the playground fence, and we do get the funding for plumbing and drainage this year, next year we would go out with requests for renovating the interior of the comfort station and for the median. And then finally, I just want to say thank you for bringing up the work that you're doing on homeless outreach and homeless services. We know that that's really desperately needed everywhere, but especially in Midtown. We've been very encouraged with what we've seen by the opening of the Paul's Place Drop-In Center on 14th Street west of 6th Avenue. I don't remember exactly the count of the capacity, but it is a center between 6th and 7th Avenue that allows anybody for any reason to walk in at any time of day. It's not a shelter. It's a place where you can get a meal, you can get a shower, you can sit in the chair and watch TV. You are connected immediately with services. So you can get a caseworker, you can connect immediately with a bed there, but it's not a long-term bed. You're not guaranteed a facility there, but if you do start to sleep there, they will try to get you placement in a shelter within 90 days. So, you know, these are the kinds of things that we're really encouraged to see throughout the city, because I think that the populations that we see living on the street really often, if they're not engaged in the shelter system, seem to be in worse shape. And our operations team engages with them on a daily basis to make sure that they have been offered services. And if we see anybody new, we call DHS and make sure that they're aware that maybe we have a new encampment, and make sure that everybody's been approached. And we really think that, like the kiosks that you're talking about in Paul's Place, really help address this gap between, you know, the fall-on shelter and somebody who's just looking for, you know, either a touch point or maybe some food or a bathroom during the day.
Thanks, Ed. Next will be Charles Disability. And I'm going to ask folks to just try to be as concise as possible. It's already 6:45, and we have a number of other items on the agenda for this evening. So I'll ask people to just be concise with their questions and responses.
Hi
Charles,
there.
go ahead.
Hi. Is it possible to add any type of tactile guideways through the, you know, the paths inside the park to help people who are low vision to, you know, be able to navigate the space? I was also wondering about I believe there's a wheelchair kind of like lift up to that. I believe there's a stage that sometimes is used in the park, and I believe that wheelchair lift has had issues, and I'm wondering if that has been maintained or upgraded at all, and if the bathrooms that you're upgrading, if there's any wheelchair accessible bathrooms, public restrooms in the park. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Quickly, so I will inquire about the idea of tactile. Was it tactile or was it visible?
Tactile, that, you know, like the cane would feel the tactile surface and they could, you know, walk along, you know, like it's a guiding them through the.
I'll
along
ask Parks and I'll ask the landscape team. So right now we're kind of considering these pathways as a little bit of an experiment. It's not really a construction project. We're laying gravel down on the existing kind of dirt desire lines. But I think if this was something that we wanted to include permanently, we would probably, invest in, probably a design modification and reconstruction of the pathways there. I know that you can enter the lawn from the north side, and the gravel that we use is a very fine screen gravel. It's not like a thick pea gravel. It's an ADA compliant gravel. But I will ask about getting a tactile addition, if not to those pathways, at least to the kind of the northern half of the lawn, has really the majority of the pathways and gravel. The stage, we're not, I don't have all the details yet for Summer in the Square. We are not 100% sure we're going to use a stage as we have in the past because of the sort of the cost and impact of that. We might still. And, I got to apologize because I've been at Union Square Partnership since 2019. So basically all my time at Union Square Partnership has been basically pandemic. So I've not actually produced a Harvest in the Square and Summer in the Square. I don't think we had people up on the stage last year. I don't recall the lift, so I'll have to check back with my programming team. If we do have a stage with a lift, I would confirm that. I think you were saying that it's not operational, that it is operational, but otherwise our commitment to anybody who's interested that we would have an accessible viewing area for absolutely all of the programs that we do. And then finally for the bathroom, I don't have any design for the bathroom yet, but this would be a project that would probably be undertaken by the Parks Department capital. And of course, I'll convey to them that everything that they do be ADA accessible. Actually, should be really in excess of whatever requirements, so that we can make sure that it's as accommodating and convenient as possible.
Thanks, Ed. So I'm going to bring it back to the committee. Do any committee members, and I'll put this into business session. Do any committee members have any further questions or comments? Okay, we are going, Catherine.
Hi, I just wanted to comment because there was public question about this. CB5 in February passed resolutions in response to OCM guidelines on cannabis, and one of the specific requests is that playgrounds, businesses be further than 1,000 feet away from playgrounds. And Ed, I'm happy to follow up with you on, I'm the CB5 chair of the Cannabis Task Force. I'm happy to follow up with you on the rest of those guidelines, but they are available to everyone on the website as we're trying to move forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Catherine. So we vote on the program. I don't think we need to vote on the design changes or anything like that, but you do vote on the actual programming for the year. So Barbara, do you want to make a motion on the programming?
Motion to approve the program.
Okay, Kim, you want to take it to a vote?
Sure. Craig?
Yes.
Kim, yes. David?
Yes.
Miriam?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Samir?
Yes.
Michael? Kathy? Kathy?
Yes.
Oh, sorry, I think I missed you. Todd?
Yes.
And Barbara?
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed, and I will see you soon.
Thank you, everyone.
So the next item is going to be an activation along Fifth Avenue in honor of the next season of the TV show Miss Maisel. I believe, Stuart, you are going to present tonight I do want to acknowledge that Dawn Tolson is here. Dawn is the head of SAPO and the citywide event coordination and management team. Dawn, welcome. It's good to see you again. Dawn has been traditionally helpful with us with the post-parade events by Madison Square Park. I've sat next to her in several pre-meetings. So welcome back, Dawn. Thank you for coming tonight. And I think, Stuart, are you going to start the presentation?
I can. I think.
Okay.
Let me see.
Before you do, let me just turn it over to Todd Shapiro, who was the committee member who did the diligence on this. Todd, do you want to say a few words beforehand just to set the stage? We lost Todd. Did we lose Todd completely? Yes, Todd is gone. John, do you want to say a couple of words? You want to say a couple of words? I know you were the backup with him.
Yeah, sure. This application is for a street permit for the launch of this Amazon-sponsored event on Fifth Avenue from 46th to 56th Street. It's our initial determination is that this it's a one-day event, but all day. It has a massive footprint, and it's probably better for the applicant to go in great detail, but it will include a pink carpet extending that full length of Fifth Avenue, and there will be lots of activities. There are a number of, in addition to the traditional issues around events with large footprints that may not be in the public benefit, something we need to discuss tonight. There are also a number of unresolved issues around legal liability and insurance, and I'll leave it at that.
Hi, everybody.
Todd.
I'm back online. I'm in a car, but let me just add, thank you, John.
Okay.
So Stuart will walk us through the details, but in broad terms, it's basically a very substantial installation to promote Amazon Prime's Maisel show, which we all know and many of us love. It's basically pink carpeting spread across both sides of the street on Fifth Avenue for 10 blocks with a series of booths that memorialize with photos various seasons of the show, and then period autos in front of Saks Fifth Avenue, where they're going to have on the hour teams or crews or performers that are going to do song and dance routines. So it's going to be, I guess, a day of setup during the evenings, and then a day of breakdown, and then it's a substantial portion of the day, as John alluded to. You do have these substantial issues of liability. If slip and fall on account of the carpets, that has been an issue which came up in the due diligence. I'm curious to hear if Stuart can shed any more light. When I spoke with him earlier, he said that he had complied with all of the requirements of the parks of DOT and whether or not that speaks to the issue of the liability wasn't clear to me. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that. SAPO and DOT and the city of New York has to clarify, for the benefit of our many businesses, just exactly what's going on there and whether or not people are going to be protected. And of course, the big issue for something large like this is the suitability and the impact and the equity, because a lot of the vendors and storefronts, the people that compete with Saks Fifth Avenue, they feel it may be unfair to allow something of this size and scale to promote their commerce. They don't really see that it's a benefit to them. And as far as I could see, there's not a lot in terms of fees or payments that's going to go back to the city. I may be wrong on that. Anyway, those are the big issues. I'm sure that John brought this up at the time I was offline. So I'm very interested to hear what Stuart has to say. He can explain in greater detail the scope of the event. I did get from Stuart, he did forward to me, and I forwarded to everybody, digital materials that showed, the picture booths that are going to be on the route on the 10 blocks, as well as the signage and some of the other things that are going to make up this event. We can discuss whether it's suitable as to size and scope. And with that, I'll turn it over to Stuart.
Well, thank you everyone for giving me the opportunity to present tonight. A couple of things I'm going to differentiate here. I'm going to deal primarily with the production components of this event, and then I'm going to defer to Commissioner Tolson to speak on the insurance and suitability issues, because that's more under her purview than it is under mine. We have put together an application through the Street Activity Permit Office to celebrate the 5th season of The Marvelous Miss Maisel, which is an Amazon Prime television show, which is set, shot, edited, all in New York. The event is a one-day event. It loads in the night before and loads out the immediately following on April 14th. The footprint of the event, as was mentioned before, stretches from 46th Street to 56th Street on both sides of the sidewalk. What we're doing is we're going to place a single run of 5-foot wide pink carpet. Carpet that we're using is ADA compliant indoor-outdoor carpeting that would line the sidewalk. Along the route, there will be 5 areas that are specifically set up with photo vignettes. All of the photo vignettes are away from the buildings, back to the curb, to minimize impact on pedestrians. The primary event space is in front of Saks Fifth Avenue on the street outside. That would be the only place where we would completely carpet the sidewalk in pink. On 3 sides of the building, as was mentioned earlier, there are 3 period cars. For those that don't know, The Marvelous Miss Maisel is set in the 1950s. So there are a number of branded checker cabs, which would be placed not on Fifth Avenue, but in the south parking lane of 50th Street and the north parking lane of 49th Street, immediately adjacent to Saks. In addition to that, there are a number of components that are going on inside of Saks, including displays in their front windows, as well as additional areas within the store. We are as concerned as the community board is with safety and everything from trip and fall. We will have security on every block along the way, as well as crews to maintain the carpet, even though it's specifically designed to do what we're using it for. We're prepared to have crews not only to clean and maintain it, but to ensure pedestrian safety along the way. And then the last component of this is that in addition to what is going on here, there are a number of other components around the city, including lighting the Empire State Building pink. There are a number of private events that are happening inside of Rockefeller Center that are all attached to this launch. And I'm happy to take any questions that anyone might have.
Why don't we let Dawn, Commissioner Tolson, speak, and then we'll take questions together. How's that?
So
Is that okay?
that's fine. Hi everyone. Thank you for having me on. Some of the questions that you guys have was with regard to the carpet itself, the safety of the carpet itself, and with regard to liability. The SAPO permit that is issued literally is basically handing over the use of the sidewalk or whatever is designated on that permit. It can be a full street closure, it can be a partial street closure, it can be a sidewalk. but it hands that over to the entity or individual that is activating the space during that time. So the liability happens on that space falls under, in this case, it would be Stu Wiseman's organization because he's the producer of the event. And they provide separate insurance that covers any activity that happens on that day. The city of New York is indemnified, as is the bid, who maintains that space under their agreement with SBS. So all of that is managed under the insurance policy that is provided by Stu to the city to cover any activity that happens in the designated area on the permit. The permit is stamped with the site plan. I'm sure you guys all have that sign, which shows exactly what is happening on the street, the application of the carpet, the locations where these pop-ups are happening. By the way, you mentioned there are several of them. I believe there are 5, and they're 10 by 10. So it's not like they're taking up the entire sidewalk of that. It's a 10 by 10 pop-up. It is static. It faces the street. So an individual would come, and in front of it, the back of the pop-up is to the street. So it's not like they're taking a picture of the storefront itself. It's the street. Some of these are in front of locations that currently are not occupied. And then the individual would go on to the next stop or wherever they want to go. The carpet itself is unbranded. It lays flat to the ground. It is not stopping anyone from coming in or out of any other establishment along the way. It is at the curb line. The standard sidewalk width is about anywhere between 20 to 25 feet along Fifth Avenue, and the carpet takes up about 5 feet of that. That 5 feet is actually the standard that SAPO requires we be having an activation on the sidewalk. So he's actually doing the reverse, and he's only taking 5 feet of the sidewalk in these locations, except for where the 10 by 10 pop-up is. He takes a little bit more space in those locations. So it's actually less intrusive than a normal sidewalk use of space under a SAPO application. With regards to the fees, he does have to pay the standard promotional fees. It's not as though this event is free. We do marketing. We have a category within SAPO for promotional events that happen on city streets and sidewalks. And the producer would need to pay those fees in order to utilize the space for this type of activation. Did I miss any questions regarding safety and placement of the carpet? Is Todd still there? I know he had questions.
So before
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Todd.
Can anybody hear?
Todd, go ahead.
So,
Todd, go ahead.
to be clear, if somebody slips and falls on the carpets during that 10 block area that's involved in this installation, so the store owners and merchants are not going to be liable for that.
No, it falls under the SAPO permit. So Stu would be reliable for it because it happens in his activation on that area, which is covered under the SAPO permit.
Understood, because that was a major area of concern that came up in our due diligence discussions. Okay.
So thanks, Todd. So the question, I guess, is directed towards Dawn and maybe also to Stuart. This is 10 or 11 blocks. What was the thinking behind having so many blocks? It's a long stretch, and I know Fifth Avenue is sort of a marquee avenue in New York City. But why does this need to be 10 or 11 blocks as opposed to even 1 or 2 blocks right by Saks? If you could speak to that, because it's a lot of public space that we're basically, the city is leasing out or outsourcing for the day. So what is the thought process behind having so many blocks?
Well, part of what this overall concept is to create the Miracle Mile, which is part of the show. When we had originally presented this to the city, it was actually substantially larger than it is now. The original request went in from 42nd Street all the way up to 59th Street. And as we worked with Dawn's office as well as the street activity permit office, what we tried to do is we tried to balance the needs of the client and what they wanted versus what the mayor's office felt was appropriate for this size event. And what you see here is the result of the sort of ongoing process.
If it rains, what is going to happen? because you could have two different scenarios where it rains a little bit and you just have, fairly drenched carpeting, or it's a downpour and you're probably not going to want to do the event at all. It's just, you're not going to want to have all the equipment out, I guess, if you have, a downpour. What is the thought process of inclement weather, which can happen, obviously?
I do want to clarify the fact that it is all-weather carpet. We made sure of that it is specifically for outdoor use. It is ADA compliant and it is flush to the ground. Otherwise, anything outside of that would create a true hazard. And so we were a no-go on that. Because originally they wanted to use decals and DOT, and we said no, because decals are not allowed. And so this was this next step. He said carpet. I said, what kind of carpet? Because obviously it has to be ADA compliant. It is not like the soft plush carpet. We did share with a bit of sample. It is specific carpet that is made for being individuals that with disabilities to be able to roll over it, or use walkers on it, or otherwise. It is not. A woman's not going to mess up her heel on this type of carpet. It is meant. It is meant to be walked on and meant for all weather. But Stu, you can speak to the potential rain downpour or anything like that. Obviously, lightning, thunder, stuff like that, we wouldn't let the event. Depending on the type of structure, there are requirements that have to be adhered to with regard to that. But Stu, if there was a steady downpour, you can speak to that.
I mean, again, it's all of the events that we do outside of New York, and I've been doing these events in New York for like 30 years, are rain or shine events. There is no rain date contingency for this. Everything is designed to go in. Obviously, it's the client's call if 24 hours before there really is a forecast for torrential rains. It's up to them to decide whether or not they want to eliminate any of the individual components. But from the production side, everything that we have is able and capable to be set up in the rain, to be able to run in the rain safely. And again, it really goes back to the client on what they want to do. But again, in my experience, having done this, we've never had an event that was a complete washout ever in my entire career.
I do also want to add that we also increased and required of Stu to increase the number of people that he had on the carpets. I think it originally was 5 total, but we requested that so that there are individuals on each carpet managing that area. I know there's concerns of what if a dog pees on it? What if something happens like that? And so he has people there policing that situation, managing that situation, keeping the carpet clear, free of debris throughout the duration of the event.
Thank you. Samir.
Hi. Yeah, I don't think I've seen any materials or site plan. Do we think we could I don't know if other members have, but if not, could we quickly go through that? What would this look like on this slide?
Just a word, Samir. I had circulated a link that has pictures of the booths. There's actually a map that shows where the installation is with the various exhibits. So when at some point you'll be able to see that.
Okay, I can try to search through my email for it right now. Thank you.
David.
Yeah, one quick question. I was wondering if you talked to the Fifth Avenue Business Association and what they had to say about the project.
We did speak with the bid. They were not for this situation. But again, they can make a recommendation. They can't approve or deny. And some of the reasons why they gave that it was impacting doesn't impact the business because of the fact that it's a piece of carpet that's flush to the ground. Their concern with that was stopping individuals from getting into their business, and it is not. It is an unbranded piece of carpet on the sidewalk in front of the businesses, and it's not directly in front of the business. It's 10 to 15 feet away from the business's door. So it doesn't stop or impede in any way their patrons from getting in and out of the business.
Aaron.
They also had concerns about insurance and other things that we're talking about right now as well. Apologies.
So it sounds like a really fun idea, huge fan of the show, but I just have a couple questions. So you mentioned Radio City Rockefeller Center. So at some point, does this carpet become part of the red more traditional red carpet for the actual premiere. I assume maybe the premiere is happening at Radio City. Like, are you gonna, at any point, does like part of it get closed down to cue the actual cast and talent from the show in some sort of like activation from Saks to the premiere, like with arrivals of cast, with the press? Because that portion of it, right, would be like a private event to like line into the world premiere at a theater. So is that connected to like the Saks Fifth Avenue getting to Radio City Music Hall? Like at any point, has that become like a private, drop off for talent?
No, that's not a part of this permit. I don't think there's a permit in the system for that at all. So thank you for flagging that that's
And
happening.
nor is it part of what I've been hired to do, nor is that part of what I've applied to do. My portion of this event is the special event as presented here. This is what I'm responsible for. If there are other things going on, I would think that I would be aware of it, and to the best of my knowledge, I have none.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I guess let me rephrase this a different question. So at Saks Fifth Avenue, right? So in like, for example, the places where people would historically look at the Christmas windows, right, where they sort of queue people and the sidewalk comes very crowded right there. So if that's part of the pink carpet, at any there won't be, you're saying, and there's no, at no point would that be closed to, again, like a more private use where like the cast of Mrs. Maisel like is there in front of the windows? Like there's no event that would be closed to the public. Are you saying at any point?
That's correct. The only thing is that is basically on the hour, except that it's going to be 5 minutes after the hour, because we can't be on the hour because it would conflict with St. Patrick's bells. But there's a number of cast members, 8 cast members, that will come out, and we'll do about a 2-minute and 30-second dance number that happens once an hour. It's single file. It's directly in front of the windows. There is security there at all times to ensure that pedestrian traffic, number one, doesn't walk into traffic, and number two, that the sidewalks remain open and clear throughout the day.
Got it. Okay. I guess I'm puzzled at how you're gonna like get talent to and from that area without closing that block. You're
It's
just going
in and out of the storefront.
Through the store.
Oh, okay.
They're just walking out, standing in front of the window, doing a dance, and walking back in the store. That's it.
Gotcha. Okay.
There's no, just so you understand, there is no external talent coming to this. There's no cast members from the Marvelous Miss Maisel are a part of this activation inside or out front of Saks. So it's not like we're expecting additional people. Otherwise, we would have put that into the plan and included it as well. And for that, we would have had additional PD requirement of resources on site to manage that safety of their arrival and departure. And we wouldn't have them coming in the front. We would have requested they come in at a different entrance and come out the front. But that is not happening. We have not agreed to that. Just to alleviate any concerns with regard to that.
Thank you.
John.
Yes, I have a few questions. I'm going to ask them all at one time, and then you can respond. First, I'd like for someone to just very briefly summarize what the primary benefits of this event are to the applicant in Amazon, representing Amazon. In other words, what are your most compelling arguments to do this event? Number two, what do you understand to be the public benefit or benefits of doing this event? Third, could you speak briefly to the role of the police in the planning and execution of this event? And fourth is just a very technical question. You have something called the event permitting system. That was part of the application. And there's one question that says the estimated attendance at this event, and it says 75 to 199. Could you please elaborate on what that? Could you elaborate on that response, please? Thank you.
Okay, I think that I will let Stu summarize the primary benefits, I mean, I can jump in as well, Stu, but you can go ahead and explain the promotion. It's a promotion. I mean, promotions are promotional in nature from a SAFO perspective, as opposed to a civic or a, other type of activity. But promotion activities is to promote a product to the public. There are giveaways throughout the event that are being given away to the public at some of these stations. There are also selfie stations where people can interact. There's an entertainment portion where individuals that are passing by can engage with that. Feel free to lead anything else, comment on anything else that I may have missed or that you want to add.
No, that's
Amazon
exactly
stocks.
what it is. It's these kinds of events are done all over the country, all over the world. This one particularly relates back to New York, leading into your other things, and not to step on Dawn's toes. But again, this is a show that's set in New York. It's a show that's shot in New York. It's a show that's where the post-production is done in New York. So it has a huge ripple effect through the entire sort of entertainment business and the business of New York City. And, in my experience in dealing with the mayor's office is encouraging companies like mine to do events like this. In order to do them, they've set up a process where we need to comply not only with the rules, but again, to present to both the communities to make sure that they know what's going on, as well as the businesses, just to make sure that everybody knows that there are no sort of big surprises here, that everybody's on board. And as far as, the public role, the police role, and the event side of things, I'll defer to Dawn on those. Please.
Thanks, Stu. The public benefits, we already kind of went over that. It's all the same. Like it's engagement and promotion for the community and for the city to enjoy the giveaways, the interaction, the window displays. I mean, just like any other promotion that would happen on a city street. The role of the police, any SAFO permit that is issued, a portion of the cost of that is PD resources. So we deploy as many PD officers as we require, especially with the setup and rollout of the carpet, as well as to engage with public safety throughout the events and actually as it happens along the length of the avenue, as well as more additional officers as needed around the Saks Fifth Avenue. But because again, we're not expecting that celebrity component, it would not be as large of a police presence as would there have been a celebrity component. The majority of the people that you're going to see throughout this event are Stu's folks, because we have asked him to bring additional individuals in to maintain these carpet spaces and to maintain these activation areas to keep them clear of debris and safe for the public. With regard to the events, the event system, you're asking, I'm sorry, what was the last one?
Yeah, there's one of your responses.
Oh, yes. That is okay. So
I didn't understand what that meant.
That is quite all right. So anytime someone applies for a permit, they have to put in a range. And so the Stu selected that range because it's based on whatever the normal foot traffic would be in that area. It's not like a concert where he's promoting to that number of individuals or people, but we're talking about the people that regularly traverse the area on a regular basis that may or may not want to stop and engage on the 10 by 10s and take selfies or otherwise, or those individuals that would be coming in and out of Saks on that sidewalk and engaging and taking pictures with cars and all that other stuff. So that's just a general estimate. It is not a specific amount.
And I just want to be clear, you're estimating a maximum of 200 people.
Again, he's not soliciting people necessarily to outside of social media and pushing it out. He cannot guarantee those number of people. It's not ticketed. So he's going to put in a range. That's the range he chose to put in for the day. Maybe there'll be more people walking the sidewalks that day. Maybe it might get more people coming into the event and activity inside of Saks. I'm not sure what the final numbers can be. It's a range. Every event and activity that is applied for at SAFO has to put in some kind of range. Some people put in 0 to 10, and it's actually 5,000. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Todd. Thanks, John. Todd.
Okay, so John covered several of the questions I have, but I still have a few more that I just want to cover on my own. First of all, as far as social media and the use of digital images, is there a component of this event where the production company or Amazon or Saks Fifth Avenue is going to be taking pictures or images of people or people that are participating or passing by. Is that part of it? I believe that Stewart said to me that that wasn't going to be part of this. So that's one question. Another question goes to the issue of whether or not Amazon and Saks are making any kind of contribution in terms of donations to the city or to the neighborhood or the bids for the substantial cost that's going to be involved in arranging this. I know that, typically with SAPO, the fees that are charged for the permits really don't bear any relation to the cost, especially for these larger events. I mean, this is, the biggest one we've seen in a while. So if SAPO can just speak to the issue, or if Stewart can speak to the issue of, what are Amazon and Saks paying or giving back other than to the discussed foot traffic that is supposed to benefit the neighborhood as a whole. The last thing, just one other thing, the last thing has to do with the performances and the dancing. A major concern that we always have is, amplified sound and whether that is going to be an issue for people in the neighborhood. Stewart, when we discussed it briefly, it didn't sound like there was going to be much amplified sound, but can you just speak to that issue and reassure us?
So I can speak to the first two. You said social media and how that's going to affect it. There's not going to be any pictures. The only pictures are selfies that people are taking or hashtags that individuals are taking. To my knowledge, I don't even think the dance numbers are recorded, are they? Stu, you can speak to that.
Amazon will have a photographer that's there. But what Amazon's photographer that's there is primarily taking people that are willingly going in front of these backdrops. In addition to that, they will be taking pictures of their own things for their own use. But there is no, this is not they're not taking pictures of passersby just because they're there as to be part of the event.
So only we're talking the 10 by 10 activations where it's literally called the selfie station, where people are taking pictures on the. Okay, so yes, that is expected, and you would have film releases, or if someone was going to do it, have them sign a piece of paper to release it, which is standard with us. The fees, as I said at the beginning, they are paying the standard fees, which are significant. As you can go to our website, a closure of a street is $25K, a use of a sidewalk and curb lane is $11K, a use of a sidewalk is $31K, $3,100. So there are different per location per day. So there are significant fees that are being paid for the use of base. And in addition to this, when we met with the bid and we said, are you guys concerned with regard to the bid having to take on an additional burden? Amazon is ready and willing and able to reimburse any costs that the bid feel that they're incurring outside the norm to put on this, for this event and activity to occur. We have said that on more than one occasion, that they are more than willing to reimburse any costs that they feel that they have gone outside of their regular or whatever. If they feel as though, the bid is, I don't know, I have to remove one speck of whatever it is that they feel that they have been burdened upon with regards to the carpet or otherwise, Amazon is willing to reimburse them whatever resources outside of their normal resources that they would be using. I hope was that all three? Did I get it, or did I miss something?
I think so.
Mike.
Yeah, you answered my money question. I also wanted to know, you said there were going to be giveaways.
Yes.
Could you tell what it is and how, if there's a cleanup going to be needed to get the wrappers from the giveaways or whatever?
Well, we will have. Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
The giveaways are cookies. The giveaways are lipsticks, and the giveaways are these little faux cocktail sets. They are standard like packaging type things. Again, they're cleaning the carpet, which was my whole point. If you have a giveaway station, there should be a disposal next to it, and you're cleaning the carpet. So their entire resources that day is to keep that carpet clean. I'm sure they're not going to just pick up the trash that's on the carpet. I'm sure they'll get the one next to it as well. So Stu's guys are going to keep those sidewalks very clean and clear for you. Wherever there's a piece of carpet laying, I can promise you that.
And those guys will be clearly identified. If there are any issues, there will be people on each, there is security on every block. There's cleanup crews wherever there need to be. We will have all the equipment necessary, from wet, dry vacuum cleaners to anything else, to address anything. And most of the items that we're giving away are very small, and we will make sure that there is not an inundation of garbage, that everything that we collect, we will collect, maintain, control, and remove at the end of the event.
I believe the most packaging are in the pre-packaged cookies, and they're very small. Yeah, and he will have his health department permit to allow him to distribute any type of packaged food item as required by the Department of Health.
Yeah.
Anything for the committee before I go to the members of the public? Okay. Members of the public, if you wish to weigh in, please raise your hand. I will start off with Zul Zulkowitz.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Commissioner Tolson. In my experience, SAPO does a great job. Stuart, love the show. I'm not speaking against your permit application, but my remarks are to Craig and this committee, in line with some of the questions that John Harris brought up. I'm a retired member of the Directors Guild, and as a location scout and manager, worked on well over 100 feature film and television productions. Production is critical to this city. We employ many, many union members, many workers, and as a workforce multiplier, it's incredibly important. But people, this is not production. This is promotion. This is marketing and advertising. So I'm not speaking against this particular permit, but we really need to think as a committee and as a full board what it means to have more and more promotion, advertising, and marketing in our streets. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you all.
Thank you, Zul. Appreciate it. Charles, Disability, you're up.
Hi there. I was wondering if there's going to be any access for members of the public to actually sit inside the vintage taxis. Also, I'm really pleased that you guys thought of ADA, matters when it came to the carpet, but I was wondering if there's a way that a person with a disability might be able to cut the line so that they're not standing for long periods of time in the line to be in front of these backdrops, or if there could be a contact number to give the staff a heads up that they might be traveling to participate, or any type of assistance if they're traveling on their own and they don't have any family members to assist them. And then I was just going to say, my only observation is really that I feel sometimes that we live in this Manhattan bubble where everything happens in Manhattan, but we have these other 4 boroughs that seems to don't get much of a look in. And I just think it's a little bit sad that not more is focused on doing events in other boroughs, including other New Yorkers, since other New Yorkers do watch the show. And finally, I would say, what about use of pedestrian plazas and the public plazas to have this type of promotion instead of having it on such a busy avenue as Fifth Avenue? Thank you.
So, Dawn, do you want to, I guess, or Stuart, do you want to comment on some of the issues of access?
Sure, I can comment on a couple of them. The reason why this is being held here is because this is one of the areas where the show focuses. That's number one. Number two, they have a partnership with Saks, and we can't move Saks to a place where it's adjacent to a pedestrian area. When it comes to doing promotions in other boroughs, as Dawn can attest to, my company does these all over the city. We recently have done a number in Brooklyn. We do them where our clients ask them to do them, looking for the demographic that they're looking to reach. But the primary reason why we're doing this here is because it's a focal point of the show, and we're trying to tie that all together. When it comes to the disability access, everything that we've built is 100% ADA compliant. Nobody gets to go in the cars. The cars are really designed almost as a photo backdrop themselves. But there will be people manning, in addition to the people that are dealing with the cleanups, every one of these stations along the way. And I'm sure they will be happy to deal with anyone who has mobility issues to make sure that they can fully engage with everything that we have set up.
Thank you. The next speaker, and I apologize if I mispronounce this, Josie Capone. You should be able to unmute yourself.
Hi there. I know there was a mention of events also happening at Rock Center. Are those also accessible to the public? And if so, will it be happening like in the lobby, in the Rainbow Room, anything like that?
No,
I
they're
believe
not.
those are private indoor events.
Those are private events, correct. The only other really sort of big thing that's happening is that the Empire State Building will be lit up in pink as part of the promotion for the show.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else from the members of the public?
I did want to speak really quickly, if I can, to the distributing events in other boroughs. And I do want to say that when I was SAFO director, and you know this, we worked very hard to make sure that not everything was happening in Midtown Manhattan. We did a whole revamp of our rules and regulations to encourage producers to distribute their events outside of the middle of Manhattan, outside of these areas, and price things accordingly to encourage individuals to go to Brooklyn, to go to Queens, to go to Bronx, to go to Staten Island. And so just so you know, we have done what we can. We continue to work with producers as they come to us to make sure that they're applying in locations that make sense. And again, we consider this because the partnership is with Saks Fifth Avenue. It is one of the members of the bid. The event itself ties back to Fifth Avenue and the whole concept of the Miracle Mile. That is the reason why we're looking to do the event in this location and why we considered the event happening in this location.
Thank you, Dawn. So we do have one person who has called in. Marisa or Mike, could you remind me, is it *6 if they want to speak? I don't remember.
It's
and I asked
*9 to raise your hand if you want to speak, and *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, so I know there is somebody who dialed in.
That might be Ray, who is the SAFO director from my team.
Oh, okay, yes.
He couldn't log on, so that might be Ray.
Okay.
He was here to give comment, but I went ahead and commented on our behalf.
Okay. Dawn, you did a very good job. So
thank you.
So I'll bring this back to the business session. Guess I want to. The bid was unable to be here. They planned members of the bid. A representative of the bid was supposed to be here. There was a last-minute family. I believe there was a last-minute family emergency. They do express concerns about the precedent this serves, and I don't really want to go too much into speaking on their behalf because it's not really my place. But they did express concerns about the precedent this sets us on Fifth Avenue, and I will leave it at that. So now we're in business session. Samir, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I mean, there's obviously a bunch of different competing concerns here. I'm curious, did we run this through the matrix? And if so, how does something like the length of the event match? Obviously it's a quite large service area, but the length is quite short. So I'm curious, how did it eventually score out on the matrix?
Yeah, so Todd, do you want to talk to that? Speak to that? Is Todd still on? Yeah, Todd.
I'm still on, guys. So I would, since I'm actually driving, I would have John and I actually spoke about this. We wanted to hear the specifics of the event before we tried to run it through the matrix. John, I think, is in a better position to take us through the matrix, but my general thoughts about that is that given the size and scale of this event and what we've heard about it, I think that it would probably get a very low matrix score because, the benefits, the perceived benefits, which as I understand it is basically, additional foot traffic and raising the profile of New York City is not that great.
there's, you know, the fees and the things, the fees that are being talked about, for an event of this scale, really barely, I would imagine, would barely cover the costs. But I think that it definitely, this would be on the low side in terms of scoring. John?
Yeah, I agree. If we go through the matrix, it's gonna be on the low side. And that begs the question whether whether this matrix, captures everything that we've been talking about. So I guess we can go through one. Craig, did you want us to just go through the matrix one by one?
Yeah, and I'll share it. So does everybody see the matrix?
Okay, so footprint.
And this is a PDF, so I can't write in it. It's not a fillable. I don't have access right now to the other one, but you can go through this and I'll keep score.
So footprint. I would say it's huge. It's large.
Yeah.
So that would be less desirable. One.
Yep.
Timing. Timing. That is it appropriate for the session day of the week or time of the day? I would give that like a 2 or 3.
Yeah, go for it.
Duration. It's 1 day. So I guess that's an argument in its favor. So I would put that at 3 to 4.
Probably a 4.
Setup. We've had a number of events that are set up and last just a day. So I wouldn't call it quick. But it strikes me as, given the resources involved, I would put it at a 3. Commercial merchandising and signage. I would put that. It sounds like a lot of merchandising, but it sounds like they've managed it pretty well. So I would put that at a 3. Impact on residents. I guess it depends on how we define a resident. If I'm talking about the bid members and establishments, I would say it's significant. So I would put that a 1-2 range.
Yep. Please,
anybody jump in if they disagree. Impact on the infrastructure. I think it's it's a significant impact, but it sounds like they have it under control. So I'm going to put that at a 2 or 3. You know what? I'm going to ratchet that to a 2 because it's unclear to me, in terms of pedestrian traffic, in terms of the traffic and vehicle traffic, how all that's going to play out. And I still don't quite frankly understand their estimate. I think it's a hugely lowball number of 200. Uniqueness. Well, a pink carpet is pretty unique, but on a serious note, I would say this strikes me as being pretty much a routine commercial promotion, though the scale is quite large. So I put that in a 3. Audience. It's they've made a compelling argument for the fact that it's promoting New York, but there is a huge national component and it's extraordinarily commercial. So I'm going to give that a 3. Sound. On the surface, it doesn't sound like, as Todd mentioned from his due diligence, it's going to be a significant amount of sound in the traditional use of that term, meaning loudspeakers and what have you. But just the length of the event and just the overall activity, I'm going to give that a 2. Public benefit. That's the one I'm struggling with the most, quite frankly. There seems to be, I've heard several arguments that that this is promoting a core New York City industry. but you can make that argument about a lot of promotional events. I'm gonna settle in the middle on that one and say a 3 because it is highly commercial. But I personally have bought into the argument that it is promoting a core industry of New York.
Yes, Todd here. So I agree with pretty much everything that John said, with one exception, which is that for an event of this scale, to give over 10 blocks of our city for something that is a purely commercial event that is really benefiting, I think, primarily Amazon and Saks Fifth Avenue in such a big way, right? Usually when we see big promotions like this, they're often, localized or in one place or in a public plaza or a park. The issue of equity, the fact that these two, the fact that Amazon and Saks are benefiting from this and that it's so big, the issue of giving up so much of our sidewalks for this, what is really PR, I think that maybe the public benefit score, I think, should be low, maybe even a 2 or a 1. And that really is the issue for me. What the wisdom of giving over, 10 blocks, both sides of the sidewalk for pink carpets. I mean, it seems to me that they could have accomplished the same thing by just having the carpet on a couple of blocks, right? Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, I'd like to just jump in and say I don't actually disagree with Todd. I think I said a 3. He's saying 1 to 2. I think this whole approval or non-approval is going to turn on to what degree, at least in my judgment, for my vote, is it a public benefit. I would love to hear from other members because I'm truly struggling with that. Based on what our approvals and disapprovals in the past, it would require me, unless I broke precedent, it would probably require me to vote against it. But I would love to hear from anyone who can, make a strong public benefit argument, which they're making about our industry, about this particular industry in New York City.
Thanks, John. And just so folks know, we had 1-1, we had 4 2s, and a couple of those 2s might have been a 1/2. 1-4, 1-5, and the rest were 3. So it was definitely skewed towards the left side. David.
Yeah, I would like to say I actually find the whole idea a lot of fun. I think it could be fun. The antique cars, 10 blocks of pink carpeting that people can walk on. They're not blocking off the streets by any mean. And I know that the Fifth Avenue businesses have suffered a lot during COVID. This is going to bring a lot of people, not just to Saks, but all up and down Fifth Avenue. I think it's going to help all the stores out. I think it's for one day. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think that both Dawn and Stuart have done a good job answering our questions and our concerns about liability and ADA and all that. I'm for this. I think it's going to be fun.
Samir.
Yeah, I think I'm inclined to agree with David. I think if they were blocking off the sidewalk and said, like, you're not allowed to walk on it, then I would have a very different opinion, but it's just, you can still walk on it. So it's not really blocking it off. It's just like adding additional, padding under your feet. So I think I'm inclined to agree with David here and support it, at least right now.
Barbara?
Agree too. I mean, it is, very, very commercial, but it's one day. I mean, my biggest concern is that the bid, did I hear that correctly, that the bid voted, didn't want it there? They raised concerns about it. Yeah, I mean,
They don't vote, but they express they're not,
right.
They don't.
Yeah, it's not binding, but yeah, that's my only concern. But other than that, I don't have I don't have a huge concern. I sort of feel as Samir and David do, except for that one caveat about the bid.
Catherine.
Yes, so I wanted to say that while it's not a huge public benefit, they are paying to use the street for the time that they're using it. And it's what happens in that part of Fifth Avenue all the time. It feels like I'm there. I think when the bid had the holiday open streets, Fifth Avenue, I sat in this meeting and listened to it. And then I actually happened to be trying to get down Fifth Avenue that morning and was on a bus and I had taken a bike ride uptown, had to get off the bus because I couldn't get to my appointment early that Sunday morning. I was like, what is going on? And I was telling my family member, they're like, didn't you hear about it on the news? Wasn't it? So my only comment is that there would be some sort of publicity, but it's what happens on that. It is an event that is appropriate to that specific part of the Avenue. That's what happens there. We light Christmas trees. We do all that kind of similar activity.
So thank you, Catherine. Anyone else? I'll make my comments, but I want to give other people opportunities before I speak. Aaron?
So I agree with some of the comments that have been made. I think it's fun. I think it's more decorative than an obstruction. So I agree with a lot of David's comments. I would support this for sure. Thank you. So
I agree. It's a fun event. Having carpeting in the booths is also fun, and it's 100% true. My concern here is the precedent, and I know I mentioned that this is the BID's concern, but this is my concern as the chair of the committee, of the precedent that we would be setting, of giving 10 blocks to a completely commercial event, right? We're giving basically 10 blocks to Amazon. And that does set up, because what is the next thing going to be? And then what is the next thing? And do we start having that Fifth Avenue become basically the streets of the sidewalks of Fifth Avenue being for sale on a consistent basis? Now, this does not happen. I don't know, Dawn, if this has ever happened like this, but it does set up. The first time sets up, precedent for the next time. So I do have concerns about the precedent that we're setting. I'm not saying that I would vote no on this. I'm just saying this is my concern. I also do have the concern of 10 blocks. What is the next event that either SAPO or the Parks Department, and this is not just direct towards SAPO because it could be the Parks Department, what is the next event that's going to be 10 blocks? We generally don't approve things that are that long in distance. So I do have that concern as well. And if we do approve, I would like, and again, this is open for discussion, this is not just me, to express those concerns in the resolution. So that would just be my 2 cents on this. David.
Craig, I was about to say the same thing. I mean, if that's a problem for people, if we can ask the applicant if they would be willing to at least consider cutting down on the number of blocks actually involved, that might make things better. But once again, that's my thought.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, Todd, do you want to, Don, I will let you speak, but I want to just let the committee members deliberate first, and then I'll let you.
Okay, let me know when I can go.
Go ahead, Todd, you can go.
Okay, so yes, so I'm glad you said that, Craig, because the precedent for something like this, without a large public benefit, recognizable public benefit, is something that we'd be well advised to keep in mind. And as I said, they could get the same effect with 2 blocks with pink carpet as with 10. And I do think after listening to what everybody has to say, I am inclined to support it because it is fun, and Fifth Avenue has been beaten down during the pandemic. But I think our resolution should make, a substantial nod towards the fact that it's too large and that we don't look kindly on that. Okay, but that's what I have to say.
Anybody? I'll get to you. I will get to you, Dawn. Sorry, Commissioner. Samir, go ahead. And I think John, if you want to speak also, but Samir, go ahead.
Yeah, I think if we want to add that in the resolution, I'm totally in favor of that. Basically saying like, we are concerned about the length of the event and the potential precedent it would set. I'm fine with that being like a whereas clause or wherever it would go.
I would like to just jump in and say I support both Craig, your approach, and Todd's approach. I agree. On one hand, I'm highly inclined to support the event, but with the reservations. And I think it should be strongly worded what our reservations are, so they'll think twice about future events of this size.
Commissioner, do you want to speak?
I did want to say, can you guys hear me? I did want to say that yes, we are, I have considered that with regard to precedent, et cetera. And there are some very other interesting things that have happened throughout the city that are similar in nature to this, where they take over, large areas. Our goal has always been that if they do not have a tie to the community, if they're not working with an organization or business community, we wouldn't even consider it. For example, if they just came by themselves and said, we wanted to do this, like, let's say, I don't know, Sesame Street just showed up and was like, I want yellow carpet and I want it all down both sides of Fifth Avenue. We wouldn't even entertain that unless they were already working with at least one of the businesses that exists within that area and has a tie or a reasoning behind being in that location. And I do want to just flag that to appease at least some of your concerns with regard to precedent.
Thank you. So I think it seems as though we are at a place where we can make a resolution, and I think we seem to generally agree on some clauses within that resolution to express some reservations. Todd, Todd or John, do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve based on the issues we've discussed, but with reservations about the large footprint and the potential going forward. And I'm sure John and I can come up with language that reflects the discussion that we've had tonight. John?
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think we've gone over the reservations already. Footprint, commercial event, opposition by one of the bids, and equity issues. The concern that this is a precedent for future events that may or may not be related directly to Fifth Avenue.
Thanks, John. So we do have a second?
Second.
Okay, it doesn't make it. Kim, you want to take it to a vote?
Wait, Craig,
Yes.
Kim, yes. David,
Yes.
Miriam,
Yes.
Catherine,
Yes.
Aaron,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Samir,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Kathy,
She might have dropped off.
okay, Todd,
Yes.
Barbara.
Yes.
Thank
Great.
you. Appreciate it. Stuart, good to see you. Commissioner Tolson, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you very much, and we'll get our resolution out.
Thank
And good
you.
luck on the event.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, so moving along and just keeping in mind, I know a few of you have to leave, so hopefully we can these. The next item is going to be an art installation. I think, Elizabeth, are you presenting?
Yes, I am. Turn off the.
Okay, go ahead, Elizabeth. Good to see you, and please let us know who you introduce yourself again for us.
Yeah, so I'll just introduce myself because it's been a while since I've been here. I'm the Senior Public Art Coordinator with NYC Parks. Right now I'm a team of one. I permit temporary public artworks in parks citywide. So that's all 5 boroughs. We have a busy year coming up. We do about 50 to 60 projects a year. Most recently, I think for CB5, we've done projects in Union Square. It's been a while since we've done something on Park Avenue, which I'm here to present this evening. The last one in this district, I believe, was the George Rickey which ended last year. So I'm going to share just some information about our next exhibition that's coming up, which will be an exhibition of sculpture by the artist Sophia Vari. The supporting organizations for this project is Nora Jaime Gallery, Fund for Park Avenue. All exhibitions on Park Avenue are recommended to NYC Parks by the Fund for Park Avenue Sculpture Committee. We also work closely with the Grand Central Partnership for the malls that are located in their district. The exhibition will be on view from May to November 2023, so about 6 months. They'll be removed before the Christmas trees come in. Sophia Vari is a world-renowned Greek visual artist. She specializes in bronze sculpture. A lot of her bronze sculptures you'll see is painted as well and has a dialogue with her non-sculptural work. Each artwork will be attached to a painted base made of wood and steel. I'll share some pictures of that. Each base will have feet on it that will allow it to be leveled. And there's also space to add ballast sandbags for additional weight. There's no required bolting to existing surfacing. And we work closely with the Fund for Park Avenue's landscaper to prepare and restore the sites at the end of the exhibition. And as required, the organizers have submitted signed and sealed engineered drawings to the MTA Metro North engineering team to ensure that there will be no negative impact on the train shed below, and the plans have been accepted by the MTA. So we're all good there. I'll just show you the locations of all of the works. I'll include the ones that are out of the district, but just so you get a sense of what the work looks like and a sense of the scale. This one will be at East 53rd Street, north of the intersection. We have one here at East 54th Street, south of the intersection. There will be one across the street here. Another one, this will be mid-mall between 54th and 55th Street. Continuing up the avenue, another piece at East 55th. It's that red and black piece there in the lower right. This piece will be at 56th and Park Avenue. Moving further north, this will be across the street. 57th Street, 58th Street, 59th. This one will be across the intersection at 59th Street. 60th, I think that's taking us out of district, 61st Street, 62nd, and then 63rd. So it's a 10-block walk up Park Avenue with these sculptures. And just so in case you were wondering what the base looks like, they're hollow here, steel structure with painted wood on the outside. You can see the feet in the corners that can be leveled, and they are hollow to accommodate extra weight. And then the sculpture just sits on top. And again, everything has been reviewed by engineers. The artworks are quite substantial, but they will not have any impact on the train tunnels, and they will also be safe. And we don't have to worry about wind loads or anything like that because that's all been accounted for. So that's it.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee?
One thing I should note too is we don't have an exact installation date because the artworks are being shipped from Italy, and with international shipping, especially for large objects, we're not sure exactly when they'll arrive and clear customs, but once they're ready, we're looking at a May installation.
Do you have a sense when they might?
They left a few weeks ago, so I actually don't know exactly, especially with the quantity of sculptures, how long that takes, but.
Any questions from the public? Oh, we do have a question, actually. Catherine, sorry. Catherine, do you have a question? Your hand is up.
Yeah,
Okay.
so my question was, is there any aspect of the work, there's usually like a hashtag that goes, but is there any social media or any sort of other engagement in programming? Is there sort of some educational part to the artwork that's going to be involved?
Yeah, there will be signage posted with each of the artworks, which will have more information about the artworks. I don't, as far as programming is difficult on the Park Avenue malls by nature of them being the malls, but I'll have to go back to the gallery and see if there was any educational programming or
Even a hybrid, you know, in a world of hybrid programming nowadays. I didn't
Yeah.
mean like on the mall, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, Azul, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Craig. So public art is very much in the public interest. It's not marketing and advertising. It's not promotion. People, please think about this in the future. You know, we're besieged by commercialization in this town, every which way you turn. And they're trying to sell us stuff, mostly stuff that we don't need, that's not useful, that's toxic. When we have public art, we are creating a space of education for young and old alike. This is in the public interest. This is in the interest of our community. So I beg this committee to think in these terms more so in the future. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Azul. Appreciate it.
I will say our program is art for art's sake. There's a promotional aspect to it. It would be not in our program.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. I don't think this is a voting item, but but thank you. I don't think we're on this. Oh, sorry, somebody say something? Oh, I don't think this is a voting item. This is, oh, Michael, go ahead.
Comment, is that okay?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think they're lovely. I agree. It's something that will beautify the neighborhood from May through November, 6 months. It's replacing those dinosaurs and animals that are on Park Avenue a little lower down. I think this is great. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
I got
Always good to see you.
Craig, it's Todd. Can I add something?
Sure.
So, yes, and I'm sure Clayton, if he was around, would have made that point that the gentleman in the audience made, which is that, yes, this public art and the dinosaurs and the animals that I've seen a million times walking up and down Park Avenue, and the use of Park Avenue as a venue for this fine public art, as long as it's not too big and it can be preserved and not vandalized. It's exactly the sort of thing that our committee has supported, and I'm sure we'll continue to support. And the point about, you know, we're constantly asked to render judgment on commercial interests in the public space, but the public art exhibits is absolutely something that we can be proud of, and I strongly support this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good to see you.
Yep. Thanks for having me.
Now the next item is the Bryant Park agenda. Rachel and Dan, thank you for waiting. I appreciate your patience.
Sure.
You got a lot of education on what else is going on in the district. So I will turn it over to you to present your annual roster for the year.
Sounds good. And I'll start with Bryant Park, and then Rachel will start with 34th Street Partnership separately. So hopefully we can all see my screen soon. Excellent. All right. So Bryant Park programming. These are all, everything that I'm about to say is free, open to the public programs, with the idea of activating and making a more interesting public space in Bryant Park. Many of these programs you will, if you're familiar with Bryant Park, have seen before. But as we do every year, we come to you with these programs, and we'll flag new programs as well. So we have our daily amenity areas. So we call them that because they're open every single day for the most part. And typical hours are 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. So you see here the art cart, but we have our ping pong tables, our games areas, our chess, and art cart this year, we're planning to have 2 or 3 specific educational workshops, again, free and open to the public every week. So in addition to having materials out there, we'll have specific workshops, whether it's drawing workshops, et cetera, to help do even more educational work in the space. And likewise, our ping pong tables, we hold tournaments on occasion and have specific, mahjong socials at our games area, or in our chess area, we regularly have, masters or grandmasters play chess and do educational work as well. We have our putting green, we have our petanque and reading room, and our beekeeping as well. Again, very familiar to those who have been here in the past. New, and especially expanded this year, near our carousel, we're creating something we're calling the Kids Creative Corner. So that'll have specific children's books for kids to take out, and also additional craft supplies to do lessons and drawing. It's sort of another way to activate the carousel, which is already a space where we have lots of kids and families in the park. And we also have a program called the Carousel Extravaganza, which is being expanded this year. These are science workshops for kids, or puppet shows or magic shows. Again, we're becoming one of the major places for families to bring their kids for free public programming. So again, moving from daily amenities for the most part to classes and activities. Most of these happen on a weekly basis, some of them are twice weekly. Juggling is an exception. Juggling happens, if you're not familiar, every single day, just I guess with the exception of Sundays, but twice on Thursdays, so 7 times a week, you can take free juggling lessons in the park. We have birding tours, which happen 3 times a week, once in the morning, twice in the evening. They're very popular, especially with some of the woodcocks that are currently in the park and other birds. Fifth Avenue Terrace, we're doing some more fitness classes. On the far side, again, still Bryant Park, but on the Fifth Avenue side of the park, near the front entrance to the library, we're doing fitness classes, usually when the library is not open. Tai Chi is a regular program. This is our 20th year of doing Bryant Park Tai Chi. It's usually for an older community and is well loved at this point. We also have ribbon dancing classes, knitting classes once a week. We have our well-regarded yoga classes, which are Tuesday mornings on the upper terrace for sort of more intimate class, and then larger classes on Wednesday evenings on the lawn. And those will go from late May through September this year. And likewise, we also have our Lamone Moves classes, which again are free, open to the public on Saturday mornings. Our reading room, and then other additional kids programs. Our reading room, as many of you know, is a hub for many literary events. We have author talks, we have talks about movies that we call Real Talks, we have Broadway actors and books about Broadway who come and do public programs. We have nonfiction in partnership with the New York Historical Society. We have poetry with many extraordinary poets, and a book club that sort of brings communities together around certain books. We have an entire program just for kids on Saturdays and Sundays called Camp Kids. It is becoming very popular, and likewise our story time classes are extraordinarily popular with families. So moving to our arts and culture events. We have our piano, which is every single weekday starting in late April through the end of October. We have well-known pianists who perform on a regular basis. We have pop-up concerts that we've done since the start of the pandemic with American Symphony Orchestra. We'll have 6 of those this year with smaller groups of ensembles, whether they're jazz musicians or quartets. We have a Shakespeare celebration on May 25th with the Drilling Company. It's our 10th year of doing Shakespeare in Bryant Park, again, all for free. We have our bingo classes on the Fountain Terrace, which again happens 4 times in June. Again, a well-loved program. We have our dance party series in May, 6 events. Those you learn the style of dance, whether you're learning how to do salsa or bachata or swing, and then you have a live band who performs the music you just learn the steps for. We are planning to bring back 2 programs that are iconic Bryant Park programs that have not happened since the pandemic. One of them is Square Dance, which we're hoping to bring back in September. And another is musical chairs, which if you're not familiar with, it's just musical chairs, as you know, but on the scale of the Bryant Park lawn. So we typically have 600 to 700 people who compete, and then there's one winner. And likewise, we're doing hopefully some small scale music programming at the space called The Porch to help bring some folks in the evenings. I think most, if not all of you, are probably familiar with our Picnic Performances series. So these are music, theater, and dance programs that happen on our stage. And they're in partnership with lots of different organizations throughout New York City, from Carnegie Hall to New York City Opera to Jazzmobile, the Harlem Stage, and many more. We haven't announced our season yet, but we will probably around mid-April. Movie nights probably don't need an explanation. 10 Mondays starting June 12, and it's probably the most well-known Bryant Park program. And Broadway and Bryant Park, we're planning to bring back our partnership with iHeart Radio to do this for 4 Thursdays starting July 6th. And those are 12:30 to 1:30 p.m. lunchtime concerts. And that, I believe, is our programming for the summer, spring and summer. And we'll have additional, obviously, winter programs. But happy to answer any questions before I pass it off to Rachel to do 34th Street.
Any questions from the committee? Mike. Mike, you're muted. Mike, you're still muted.
Okay, I fixed it, I think, yes?
Yes.
Okay, would you be so kind?
Nope, I can't hear anymore, unfortunately.
You're muted again, Mike.
Okay. I hope it's working now.
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear you.
Could you get me a listing of all of these? I try to write them down, it didn't work. You talk too quick, the dates, the times, because I got to write this up and I would like to get it all down. I got to tell you, I go to a lot of this stuff. I'm a regular at that piano thing during the week, and I'm a big fan of Bryant Park, but I'd like to write them all down for me and for everybody. So
sure, I can try to make a Word document or something that has it all in one place, or I'm happy to share the presentation with you as well. Whatever is easiest.
Would you be able to send it to Craig and he could send it to me?
Yeah,
or
of
send
course.
It to
you send it to me, I'll forward it to you, Mike.
And I'm glad to hear you're a fan.
Big fan.
Okay, Rachel.
Oh, sorry. There's no other comments on Dan. Got it. All right. Ready to go. As someone with a last name that starts with Z and then has a U, I'm very familiar with going last and I am happy to do it. Okay, let me share my screen. Okay. All right, can everyone see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. So 34th Street Partnership, we are managed by the same organization as Bryant Park. And so the model of having lots of programming all the time is very much something we try to do as well. So just starting with something that's more day-to-day, almost like an amenity area in Bryant Park, we're bringing back the reading room in Herald Square Park, which is an area you can borrow periodicals, newspapers, and magazines and sit quietly and enjoy a surprisingly placid little corner of a very busy part of Midtown. And that will open in May. We have some programming that activates the reading room as well. Most of it's literary or educational themed. So First Draft is our open mic performance series, and that gets started. Sorry, I don't have the dates in here. I believe it's in June, late June. We also have a couple workshops coming up about cover letters and resume writing and financial literacy. If you have questions about what to do with your 401k, or whether you should be investing in the stock market right now, and all of those good, juicy financial questions. We'll have people, I believe, from the Mercy College Business School, a local educational institution on 34th Street, who will be able to help provide advice and give a short little program to orient folks. We're trying something new this year. You may have been to Recess, is what we called in the past, our ping pong and board game and large game area, and it was never that successful. So we're sort of trying to rethink it by experimenting a little. This is something that Street Lab, which is a great organization, has been doing in open streets throughout the city, and we sort of are trialing it in 34th Street. So we're going to try it for one day during spring break for public school kids in Greeley Plaza. It's a series of modular, some of them are little obstacle courses, some of them are just interactive fun things. There's chalk, kids really take to it. And we'll consider investing in one of these to purchase if it has a good uptake. So hopefully good weather on the 13th. And we will have more play kits in our future. We're participating again in Car Free Earth Day after a few years hiatus. This is when DOT opens streets across the city to promote pedestrian and bike access to the city streets. So we'll be doing a giant cornhole tournament in the Greeley Plaza, and in the Herald Plaza, we'll have a hooping and juggling, what's the word I'm thinking of? Bonanza, with both the hoop troop and Bryant Park jugglers there for 3 hours. And then the Hoopers will return for a weekly program that kicks off in mid-April. We're trying an evening time slot. Previously, we did a midday time slot, and I think people really turned it into a jam session, so the evening was a logical fit. Sweat 34, our free fitness programming, will also return. I think this is let's say the 8th or 9th year of Sweat 34. Juggle 34, Bryant Park Jugglers come down to 34th Street once a week, starting in May. And this is one of my personal favorite programs. It's just a very cute, quirky one, but there are so many more origami heads in New York City than you would ever know. And they're all very passionate, and they all come together whenever they can. And it's rare that it happens in an outdoor setting. So we'll bring back our origami program. We're actually extending the season due to the success of the program, because once you have 18 people doing origami together outdoors, it becomes hard to hear anyone. So we're just extending so more people can participate. And then this is one that's, I guess, also a bit of a quirky program, but the New York Budo Association is bringing back wooden swords to Herald Plaza, and we're going to have another traditional Japanese sword work class series that happened. I think we did those weekly for a month back in 2019. So this will be coming back. No, they're all wearing masks, so I'm guessing that was 2020. And that's all. Oh no, here we go. Midtown Dance is one of our kind of signature 34th Street programs. It's Midtown Dance and Midtown Music. Both of them are more than once a week. We do them very frequently. So this is a picture in Greeley Plaza. There's two parts of the Midtown Dance series. There's, we call it muchos estilos, which means both many styles and very stylish. So you can learn different types of dance. And that's usually on Tuesdays. And then our Thursday salsa series is moving to Fridays, but it will continue as a weekly series where salsa dancers will come from all over the city to dance with each other. We're adding an Afro dance component to Muchos Estilos, which starts at the end of May. And Midtown Music, this is really, I used to jokingly call this program Music Everywhere All the Time, because it's just a lot of music, because we implemented this program to take back our district from some of the pretty negative uses that cropped up during COVID. We had, as I'm sure many of you know, an increase in negative street conditions, just things that would be unwelcoming to visitors and residents alike. And so we tried to promote better uses of our public spaces by adding music to them. And we actually, the Terry Waldo Gotham City Band in particular, did 382 performances since the summer of 2020. And then we had a series of other in-house ensembles that kind of were acted as a house band for 34th Street, doing another 116 performances in 2022 alone. So this music will be returning. And I want to just show the range of different places in the district. I think this is where our programming has the widest reach through this program. We are performing not just in what we call the bow tie, which is where Broadway crosses over 6th Avenue near 34th Street, but also on the west side of the district in the plazas that are at the corners of Penn Station and Moynihan Train Hall. So with this one, it's a call to action. If you have ideas of places we should be bringing this music performance to within our district, we're all ears, really trying to have it roam further afield. It's our traveling program. And I think that's it.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Mike? You're muted.
I'm going to try again. I have a question, which is, if you haven't heard Terry Waldo, you gotta go listen. He is great, and they're playing all over the place pretty much every day, every weekday. Go hear him if you can spare the time. You won't regret it.
He's a legend.
Any other questions from the committee? Questions from the public? Charles?
Hi there. I was wondering if the bounce house is coming back, the Bounce NYC, I think it was called. I really enjoyed it. It was really wonderful. And if it is coming back, are they still going to give out discounted tickets? And I was also wondering, last year you guys were thinking about, and I think you did implement adding alcoholic beverages to the movie nights. And I remember there were some concerns from the community about it. What was the result of that last year? How did the event go with the use of alcohol? And just want to say a quick thank you for all you guys do for me with assisting me with accessibility. Thank you to Liz and Zach at the 34th Street Partnership. And I look forward to using the wooden swords again like last time. So thank you very much.
Sure, I'll take the bounce house question first, and then I can pass to Dan on the movie nights question. Yes, we do expect that Pop in the City will return. We're going to separate that from this presentation because this is all, free public programming. And I expect that the event producer for that installation will come back and present to you all likely at the May meeting. It wouldn't start until July. We have a couple months ahead of us until that gets going. And yes, we would absolutely renew any of the community related discounts or free tickets that we did last year.
And I'll take the alcohol question. Yes, we did have, I think, a successful season of safe alcohol use in Bryant Park at our movie night series, but also our picnic performances. We actually took a lot of surveys of audience members who were very happy that alcohol was able to be served. And I think overall was, no incidents. We didn't have any major issues to speak of.
Mike?
I wanted to mention that if any not repeating events are going to happen, to make sure that we know about them. Most of these 99% happen every single year. But I looked at last year's resolution, and one of the whereases was if any new are introduced, any new events are introduced, that they come before us?
Sure, we'll certainly make sure to come back. And I did flag a few new programs or returning programs, but we'll make sure if anything comes back to let you know.
Great.
Barbara, and then I do want to. We're going to lose quorum in a few minutes, so I would appreciate if everybody would just have some brevity.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, then all I'm going to say is I really appreciate all the programming. You guys really do a tremendous effort, and it really is a great benefit to the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine?
Quickly, I too appreciate all that's happening and just want to make the suggestion or ask the question if you all collaborate with the MTA Music Underground collaborative to bring more music out of the subway and onto the street. It would be great.
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. One of the bands that, I just go to my previous slide. My computer has decided here we go. The Lucky Chops, which are, I think, this band in the center here, they started as an MTA underground band and actually used to play in Herald Square Station. And this was their first, regular engagement like that was above ground. So there's some fun stories like that. But yeah, when we see, I know Dan Fishman's always handing out his business card to music performance, to performers in the subway. So we do try to, because there's plenty of amazing buskers in New York. So want to give them a chance to have a regular gig, certainly.
Anybody else? Okay, so we will be taking a vote on, and I see Catherine put something in the chat. We'll take a vote on the annual roster of programming. Yep.
Great, thank you. And I might call some people that aren't here anymore. So, okay, Craig.
Yes.
Yeah. Kim, yes. I know David had to leave. Miriam?
Yes.
Catherine?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Samir?
Yes.
Mike?
Didn't work. Yes. Says it's working, but it's not working. Yes. Yes.
Great, got it. Thank you. Thank you. I know Kathy, I think, had to leave. Todd?
Yes.
And Barbara.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. We appreciate your work, and we will be looking forward to all of this.
Thanks, everyone. See you all soon, I'm sure. Bye.
Okay. We do have one more order of business before we do go. I would like to acknowledge, thank, and show my appreciation for Barbara Spandorf. This will be her last meeting as a member of the Parks Committee. She is stepping down from Community Board 5. She's staying on, I believe, as a public member of Landmarks, I think, but she will not be coming back to Parks and Public Spaces. Barbara, you have been a pleasure to work with. We will miss you. Your guidance, your advice, your input into all of our applications have been wonderful, helpful. So I want to thank you so much on behalf of the board, on behalf of the committee, and on behalf of myself, and also Clayton as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to work with all of you. I just, I'm planning to relocate out of the district, and I don't work in the district. So that's why I decided to step down. I mean, I'll still be in Manhattan, but in another area. So it's just been a great pleasure, and I've learned so much from everybody. It's really been a tremendous experience. So thank you very much. Thanks to all of you.
Good luck, Barbara.
Oh, thank you. Thanks.
And have an easy move. I know, what do they say? Moving is like one of the worst parts of life, or something like that. So, most stressful parts of life. So hopefully have an easy move.
Done it in 30 years, so.
So,
Okay, well, thanks.
Anything else before we sign off? I know at least two of you are signing off in 90 seconds. So, anything else? Okay, I will see you at full board, everybody. Good night.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Night,
Greg. Thank you.
Craig, don't forget to send me that listing.
As soon as I get it, I will. They'll probably give it to me tomorrow, but I'll send it.